Or I'm giving a thumbs up. There are different emojis. So those, yep, I see Heather found it. They can be fun. You know, if you want to clap as Dave's giving his most wonderful, amazing presentation, you know, I'm just expecting like thumbs up and claps the entire time.
Low expectations.
Karen?
Yes.
Karen, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, Bernice.
Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I noticed in the participants, you have Gail Bragg as co-host, but that's my mother-in-law. I think you might have meant to put me as the...
I sure did. I just assumed. I was like, well, maybe Bernice is signing in with a different...
No, that's my mother-in-law.
Hi, Gail. Welcome. All right. Thanks, Bernice. Anything else that we have to...
Yes. I don't know if you can see me because I hid my picture by mistake, and now I can't find it or a way to unmute, mute, or do anything else because I'm not on the screen anymore.
We can see you, Marlene.
You can see me. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's good.
So there's another, that's a good point with Zoom, because there are going to be a lot of people on this call, and we're not going to all see each other during the sessions when Dr. Donahue is presenting, or I'm presenting, or someone else is presenting, but you'll have a breakout room with a mentor where it will be a small group of 9 or 10 people, and then you'll be able to see everyone in that group. But right now, if you go to the upper right corner, there's a view button, and if you click on that, you can just pick like speaker view, or you can pick that gallery view and scroll through to see all of the, right now I have 3 screens of people. Do you see yourself, Marlene? Awesome. All right, so Dr. Donahue, can I turn it over to you now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Karen. This is amazing. Thanks everybody for coming out today. Thank you for Karen for your amazing organization skills. What a pleasure it is to work with you. Thank you to our mentors who are joining us, and you're going to get to meet in some intimate level for the next 4 weeks. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Dave Donahue, and really excited to have you here. I'm looking over some of the names, and I recognize a lot of you, and I'm just flattered and humbled that you've come, and no pressure, but I feel like, my gosh, do we have to provide you a valuable experience? We've been working very hard to do that. The whole team is completely committed to trying to make this a valuable experience for you. I am going to share some slides and give you an overview of what's going to happen here. Just a second. I've got to master my, hit the right button here, share screen. Let's share that screen. Let's go ahead and present. So Health Challenge Delaware, this is the 2nd annual Health Challenge Delaware. Are we recording, Karen?
Yes, we are.
Oh, awesome, thanks. The 2nd annual Health Challenge Delaware, we did it last year as well, and it was a really great experience. And we'll hear a testimonial from one of our participants, Centea, a little later on. This one is going to be all through Zoom, so that's new. And today's is titled "How to Reverse Diabetes and How to Reverse Disease and Build a Healthy Life." Karen, feel free to chime in if I misspeak. So today's agenda is for the next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to give this overview of just how we're going to achieve that, how this whole program is going to work. We're going to have about a 12-minute breakout session where we would like you to join your groups with your mentor. So each of us is going to join a group with the same mentor, same group each week, and we'll get to check in each of the 4 weeks. This first 12 minutes is to introduce yourself. Then we're going to hear from Cynthia. And then Karen Smith is going to talk to us about goal setting and how to make it happen. And then for the final 15 minutes, we have our second breakout session where you're going to rejoin your groups, and we're going to present our plan. We want people to walk out of here with a concrete plan. And then after that, we'll have Q&A. We'll have a little bit of Q&A in the middle. Just a little bit of etiquette items. Mute yourself. If you want to speak, make sure you unmute yourself. We ask that you use the chat to type in the questions. We will try to address all of them, if not in the course of this session, in a follow-up email. And then at the breakout groups, ideally, we want everybody to get a chance to speak. It's really important that everybody gets to introduce themselves. Everybody gets to say what is their plan. So make sure we give everybody time. We might only have a minute or two to talk, each of us. So that's me, Dave Donahue. I'm internal medicine physician, and I was also the first to be board certified in lifestyle medicine in the state of Delaware back in 2017. So what is lifestyle medicine? Well, this is it sort of pictorially. Lifestyle medicine and what we strive to do at Progressive Health of Delaware is to really, we try to bring the best that science has to offer about how we treat our most deadly, our most expensive, our most common chronic diseases. And so the tools in our toolbox include those standards of allopathic, regular, modern day medicine, including drugs, procedures, tests, and we use them to our heart's content. But we're somewhat a little bit more realistic about the value of those traditional interventions. And we try to put first and foremost these other measures. We call them the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And it's simply the pillars of living a healthy life. So it's the exercise, it's the mindfulness and stress reduction techniques, sleep being very critical, and also healthy healing relationships and avoiding addictive substances. And what we found in the research, and there's copious research in this field of lifestyle medicine. It turns out there's 100,000 research articles come out every year in just nutrition science. But there is copious research showing that the chronic diseases that we suffer from that are so commonplace, that many of you, I am sure, are suffering from today and taking medications for, are a consequence of the way we live our lives. They are a consequence of Western civilization. And clearly it relates to our exercise habits, our sleep habits, but this graphic points to the dietary influence. And we're going to talk a lot about diet in the course of this health challenge. Everything from head to toe, almost any disease you can name tends to relate very closely with the lifestyle that we lead. And a lot of people aren't aware that these diseases like Alzheimer's disease or dementia or depression have a nutritional component, but it turns out to be a very strong nutritional component. And when people live their lives eating the foods that are pictured on the left side, not only do we get rewarded with a larger waistline and more body fat, but we have the potential of developing just about any of these diseases, from heart disease to even chronic lung disease to inflammatory diseases like autoimmune diseases, gastrointestinal diseases, irritable bowel syndrome. A lot of people aren't aware that musculoskeletal diseases like osteoarthritis and low back pain have a strong component from nutrition. Cancers, and the list goes on. Conversely, when we're successful in helping people, or when people on their own make a switch to a healthier diet, we see a lot of benefits. We see, and this is even in the research, but it's also in our personal experience. It's been demonstrated people can have a younger brain age on cognitive testing and better mood, and healthier organs by the measures of blood tests, improvement in blood values of certainly markers for heart disease, but liver disease and even stabilization of kidney disease decline. And we see improvement in sexual function, and the list goes on. just to mention, I know this isn't news to you, but we are in the midst of a pandemic. COVID-19 is out there. And I want to emphasize that a lot of what we're talking about, we think has a very significant benefit for your risk with regard to COVID. We don't have proof, but we have a lot of circumstantial evidence. And this graphic on the right is put out by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, speaking to some of the evidence around those pillars and how they really can help reduce our risk of morbidity and mortality from COVID-19. But I want to emphasize this is really about you. So we're gonna try not to overshow the science. We really want to help connect you to what's going to be the very best version of yourself. A lot of people come to us in our health challenges or in our practice, really fed up with themselves. They're disgusted with themselves in many cases. Feel like they're no good. Nothing I try works. I might as well try this, but I'm sure it's not going to work because I just can't do it. And we really don't want to see that guilt or that shame. We would love it if we can make this an entirely positive experience for everybody. You know, you are good enough. There is no such thing as perfection. Any amount of progress you make is progress. And a lot of people look at themselves as a failure in our program sometimes, but what we see subsequently and what research shows is even those people who are quote unquote failures, who don't fully do it to their satisfaction, there are health improvements that we can measure going forward in the long run. And this is a long run game. We're planting a seed. We really want to lock in some new skills, some new habits that you can kind of build on to build that health mindset. So this is our day planner, and I think we're going to make this available to you. This is just sort of my recommended day-by-day activities. Obviously, you have to integrate this into your own life the way you'd like. Clearly, we have the 4 meetings on these 4 Tuesdays at 6. And then what we want to make every day count. We don't want weeks to go by before you start dipping your toe in the waters. And one of the reasons why we do this in just a 4-week period is because in our experience and in a lot of research, people are able to achieve great things in just even 2 weeks when you make the big changes. So, you know, you make big changes, you get big results. You make little changes, you get little results. So we don't preach a message of moderation. We don't say, oh, just try a little bit more plant-based eating. We say, no, let's try to go in all the way. Let's jump in with both feet. And you would be amazed how much people are glad they did that. So these are the tools that we're going to use in our toolbox in the course of this program. We're going to talk about each of these pillars of lifestyle medicine and each of these pillars of healthy lifestyle. We're going to, most of them we're not going to be able to give the amount of time we would like to. We're going to talk more about nutrition than anything else. Thank you to those of you who answered our survey before the program. And this is what people requested we spend time on. So as far as mindfulness techniques, almost half of people wanted a lot of help with mindfulness techniques. We're going to do a little bit of mindfulness techniques, especially in the form of recommending that you journal. Journaling is a powerful capability that has real significant benefits to our sense of stress and our happiness and our ability to achieve. So this is just my recommendation, but I would recommend you even start it right now, is at least jot some notes down about things that you plan to do. So the first thing that I would recommend putting in your journal is your why. What is your purpose? We find, and research is very clear, that when people connect with their bigger purpose in life, they are not only more successful and happier, but their health is benefited and they even live longer. So connecting with your why are you doing this? What is my purpose in life? And the act of writing that down, it's something that many people go through their whole lives through and never ever do this, but it's such a powerful thing. So I encourage you to put some time into that this week. A journaling hack, which is really quick and easy and beneficial, is the gratitude journal. One study found that when people wrote 3 good things down, what went well today and why, just 3 good things. They were found, and they did this for just a few weeks. At the end of 6 months, they were 9% happier. How do you like that? Dramatic benefits from gratitude journaling. So as you create your health journal, you could also really focus on what you're grateful for. Another thing we emphasize a lot in our Cure Diabetes program and in our other healthy programs and at Progressive Health is trying to get some supportive relationships. You want a supporter when you go through this health challenge, Delaware. You want someone who can be there for you, someone you can bounce ideas off of. It's very hard for us to be successful when the loved ones around us are not supportive. I recommend you even put that as part of your plan in your journal. Who's going to be your supporters and what's your plan for creating a supportive environment? One of the things we recommend people do is clear out junk food, because it's very hard if your environment is stacked against you. There's an expression, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So in other words, try to get those tempting foods out of the way as well. If your mood sometimes looks like this guy looks, then you're probably suffering from some degree of loneliness. And loneliness has gotten a lot of attention recently. There's been a lot of research recently about loneliness. Loneliness kills. Loneliness has been clearly demonstrated to increase risk of heart disease and cancer and early death. What I strongly encourage you to do is take this opportunity to really pick up the phone and connect with that person from your past or that relative that you've kind of lost touch with, and involve them in this health challenge. Exercise or movement, sometimes exercise is a bad word, so we use the word movement. This woman is doing a squat, which I think is a super exercise that anybody can do without changing clothes or anything. Just squat and hold, working those ever so important thigh muscles. Surprisingly, just about everybody wanted some help with increasing their lifelong exercise. I think we're going to devote some time in a future session to talking about exercise. But exercise benefits us head to toe as well. There's almost no better medicine than for the brain than physical activity. Such a powerful tool for our mood and for maintaining our cognitive power over time. It certainly benefits our cardiovascular system, our energy level, our risk of cancers. The list goes on. So I encourage you to put a plan together around movement. A great tool is a personal trainer. If you have a little bit of money, you can hire a personal trainer, someone to be accountable to. It is great also to have an exercise buddy, someone who you're going to go walking with the same time each day or each week. The movement plan, the things that we really like to stress, pretty much the best exercise is the exercise you're going to do the most of, the exercise you love to do. I think my dad is on the call, and his youth serum has been playing tennis for the last 50 plus years. And what a great way to get your exercise is you find a fun activity like that. It involves socializing. It's year round, it's lifelong. So there's a plug for tennis, but it could be anything. And I think walking is particularly important, getting a lot of steps. I think being outdoors is particularly important. The moderate intensity exercise is the definition of whether you're getting quote unquote enough exercise. And that's exercising where you could talk but not sing. So you're slightly short of breath. Strength training, let's not forget that. So twice a week strength training, and strength is so important to us maintaining our independence over time. And also thigh muscle strength correlates with our cognitive power, our brain power, surprisingly. Now, if you're about to embark in an aggressive exercise program, all of a sudden, I would recommend check in with your doctor. Exercise overall is overwhelmingly beneficial for reducing our risk of death. But in the very short term, and for a select unfortunate few, it can bump your risk of sudden cardiac death. So I recommend you do get checked out by your provider. Sleep is ever so important. And surprisingly, a lot of people wanted help with sleep. The majority wanted a lot of help with sleep. I am going to conclude that we are not sleeping very, very well as a group, and I think we need to emphasize sleep even more in the future. I recommend a sleep plan in your journal. Again, it could be just a couple lines of what we're going to do, but some general principles. We don't recommend sleeping pills. That unfortunately, there is no sleeping pill that's been devised that has the ability to improve our quality of sleep. Caffeine tends to be the enemy to good sleep, as does alcohol. And I really like the idea of turning your lights off around 8 or 9 p.m. In fact, if you've ever gone camping, you might notice that you get very sleepy as soon as the sun goes down, and that's our natural state. So this lit environment, especially with the TV blaring at us or the lights overhead, is completely unnatural, and we're straining our brain every time we do it, which we do it every single day. Try to get to bed early, try to get to bed at a consistent time, and shoot for 7 to 8 hours a night. Now, if snoring is an issue, and it is for many, many people, you could have something like sleep apnea. I recommend this app. It's pretty good. It's called Snore Lab. It's free, and it can actually monitor to what extent you're snoring. If you are snoring, if you have daytime sleepiness, I really recommend you check in with your provider and get screened for sleep apnea. There's a great sleep doctor in our area, Dr. Ryan Robinson, who does a very good job at addressing the underlying cause of sleep problems and the breathing and the airway. Substances, alcohol, and tobacco, very, very important for some people, just a little bit important for a lot of us. This, in our survey, only a few people wanted help with that. Unfortunately, we won't have enough time to give this justice. Obviously, this is a very, very important topic. So I recommend check in with your provider, please. But let me be clear, we really don't recommend in lifestyle medicine the use of any addictive substances like alcohol or tobacco. I mean, you can do it, but it's don't fool yourself into thinking you're doing it for health reasons. And I do believe the science is pretty clear that the health benefits of red wine have been overstated. And then finally, the whole food plant-based diet. And this is the one we're going to spend the most amount of time on for a lot of good reasons, which I'll delineate. Fortunately, a lot of you wanted help with that, and that's a good thing because that's the main thing we're going to strive to do in Health Challenge Delaware. That's the thing that our volunteer mentors are particularly expert in, and that's the thing that has a real power. So what we recommend pictorially is this, the whole food plant-based diet. This is, it has the 5 food groups. So you have your whole grains, your intact whole grains like brown rice or quinoa or oats or barley. Then you have your legumes, which are the beans and the lentils and the chickpeas, which we don't eat nearly enough of in the West. Followed by fruits and vegetables, everybody's familiar with those. And then finally, the nuts and seeds. So those are the 5 classes of foods. And for the most part, we recommend eating as much as you care to eat of these foods, because the more of these you eat, the less of everything else you're going to eat. So one of the reasons why we make this such a priority in Health Challenge Delaware is this is the biggest area of opportunity for the average American. This is what the average American eats. It's only about 12% of what they eat are those whole plant foods, and the rest is kind of low value junk, I'll call it. So it's processed foods like breads, added fats, oils, and sugars, and flours. And then it's a lot of animal products as well. And the problem with those foods is that they lack the fiber and most of the nutrients like the vitamins and the antioxidants have been taken away from those foods. And what's left is just mainly your macronutrients, a lot of fat, a lot of sugar, and it's just lacking what our body needs. So what Americans are putting in their bodies, for the most part, is you're putting the wrong fuel in the tank. And if you think of your body as $1 trillion machine, what would you, if you had $1 trillion car in the garage, what kind of fuel would you put in it? Whatever junk you can get your hands on, or would you put the highest quality fuel? So this is not the highest quality fuel, but it's interesting because this is a lot of, quote, regular food, unquote. So this is what we're used to eating. It doesn't seem that abnormal to eat bacon and eggs for breakfast, a hoagie or a sandwich for lunch, and for dinner, maybe a chicken sandwich or a little bit of fried chicken with French fries. I mean, that doesn't seem, or pizza, so common. But these foods cause problems. So this is called the Global Burden of Disease Survey, which is the largest survey of its kind ever done, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And what they try to do is identify what are the causes of early death or early disability throughout the world. And what they find is that the leading cause of death and disability is not tobacco, that's number 3. Rather, it's dietary risks, and then it's high blood pressure, it's high fasting plasma glucose, and high body mass index, high LDL, in addition to the tobacco and air pollution, rounding out the top 7. But if you look at the top 10, most of them are really either those dietary risks, which are fingered as number 1, or very much a product of our diet. Because our blood pressure, our fasting blood glucose, our high body mass index, our high cholesterol are all a product of our diet. So diet turns out to be probably the most important contributor to our long-term health. So that pizza that we're eating is really hitting us pretty hard in terms of contributing to early death and early disability. Same story when we look at American population specifically, we see the same thing. And there's been lots of research trying to identify, well, what's the ideal diet? This is a large population study called the Adventist 2 trial, where they studied Adventists, where there's actually a pretty large population of people eating plant-based diets of different kinds. So they have a large enough population to study. And what they find is that the more animal products you eat, the higher is your average body mass index in a population. In other words, the vegans had a normal body weight, but as you start introducing animal products, the more you introduce, the heavier you get, such that even the lacto-ovo vegetarians, people eating, basically people were eating a regular vegetarian diet, their average body weight was overweight. We see the same thing with diabetes. The more animal products we eat, the more diabetes we get. The same thing with hypertension, high blood pressure as well. The longest lived populations in the world, according to the Blue Zones project, are these five regions called the Blue Zones. And what do they all have in common? Well, they all eat predominantly plant-based diets, rich in legumes and rich in antioxidants. So, for example, Okinawa is interesting. They're some of the very longest lived people ever studied, and 70% of their calories come from purple sweet potatoes. So it's kind of it's like a sweet potato with even richer in antioxidants than a normal sweet potato. But suffice it to say, potatoes are at the center of their diet. A lot of people vilify potatoes. I think the problem with potatoes is when you deep fry them and add a whole lot of salt. There's other research, prospective large trials, where they find that they look at dietary fiber consumption, and they find that the more fiber you eat, the less heart disease you get, the less breast cancer you get, the less diabetes you get, the less dementia you get, the longer you get to live. So dietary fiber appears to be a very, very healthy thing. We think it's partially because the fiber is what fuels our gut microbiota, our healthy gut bacteria, and also partially because what comes packaged with fiber is all those nutrients, all those antioxidants. So basically, I recommend when you're eating, try to eat for the purpose of sustaining your optimal health, and every bite should have its natural fiber. So there's our pillars. We touched on them briefly. We're going to talk a lot about food in this program, but I want to make it clear that although food is really important for the average person, it might not be the most important thing for you. And we respect whatever you think you need help in. So make sure you reach out if you're not getting the support you need around your sleep problem or your exercise, etc. We want you to be successful, whether you're trying to transition your diet or whether you're trying to primarily trying to sleep better. So I feel like we've kind of laid out a checklist here of things we're asking you to do. It's apologies if it seems like a lot. If you want, you can tackle them one day at a time. But the things that we would like you to do are to fill out our survey, and we'll include another link to that and some follow-up materials if that's cool. Let's try to foster that health mindset. Let's try to put health first for this next 22 days. It's probably something that many of us never have done, is put our health very first in our lives. But I think it's important enough. If it feels selfish, just keep in mind that you're going to be able to bring the best version of yourself to the table after these next 22 days. So in the long term, this is going to help you be a better caregiver for the loved ones in your life. Try to get that supporter. Really identify it. You journal these things so that it's down there on black and white. Clear out the junk food. We find that's a really important step for people to be successful with nutritional changes. Make a plan around movement, around sleep, around alcohol and substances, and make a plan around food. So Karen's going to talk more about that in our session after the breakout, in her talk after the breakout session. But think about what you're going to eat, where you're going to shop, what are going to be your pitfalls that you're going to need to avoid. Stop going to Wawa, for example. And then you're going to have to go shopping, make your list and go shopping, buy the food and start eating healthier. We mentioned measuring stuff, and we'd like to get before and after values for everybody that allow us to show you what benefit you might be able to achieve in the course of these 22 days. If you've gotten some lab values just a couple months ago, that's perfectly fine as a baseline. If you haven't, maybe in the next day or two, you could go get some blood work. So here are some of the things we recommend you get checked. All of these things we see typically improve. And I want to say results can vary. Not everybody gets every single number to improve in the first 22 days. It's the long haul that where we really want to achieve the wins. So safety, I do want to mention that for the most part, this is a very safe enterprise to basically try to live a healthier lifestyle. But there are some safety concerns. One of them would be, like I mentioned, if you suddenly start exercising really hard and you put yourself at a little bit higher risk of a heart attack in the short term, but not in the long term. But another thing would be if you're taking medications for diabetes or for hypertension. So the risk there is that your blood pressure or blood sugar can actually get too low because of those medications, and because you don't need as much medication because you have lowered your numbers. So if you are being so successful with our program that you find yourself losing weight and losing inches off your waist, then you probably are losing blood pressure and losing blood sugar as well. It's very important that these numbers be monitored. It's very important that you be monitored for safety to make sure that we don't overshoot and get your numbers too low. So I encourage you to check in with your provider, whether it be a Progressive Health or your regular doctor or provider. Warfarin, there's not many people on warfarin anymore these days, it seems like, but if you suddenly eat a bunch of vegetables, it can impair the effectiveness of warfarin. You can become no longer having your blood thinned. Aside from that, there's not that much risk. I mean, bloating as we eat more fiber, so some people are going to have to take it a little bit easy does it. And keep in mind, we still live in the era of COVID. So when you're going out exercising, you're going out grocery shopping, maintain those social distancing, sanitize those hands, wear that mask, please. Also, I recommend vitamin B12. We don't want anybody to get vitamin B12 deficient. Basically, every Westerner should be eating a vitamin B12 unless you're eating organic dirt on a regular basis. One of the ways we want to support you is through Mighty Networks. So this is something we're experimenting with, and Karen Smith has taken the initiative to set this up, and it seems to be working really cool. So it's kind of, you can look at it as a version of Facebook that doesn't carry with it the risk of tearing down our social democracy or spreading misinformation. And just wanted to mention our next session, keep in mind, is a week from today at 6 o'clock. And I'm nearing the end of my presentation, but this is my great pleasure to hand you off to our breakout groups in a moment. So we have these are just some of our mentors. We have a fantastic lineup of mentors. So I want to mention that I've had the privilege of interacting with most of these people for years now, and I know them to be more knowledgeable around certainly nutrition than most doctors. It's literally the case. So these folks are living the life. They're studying everything they can get their hands on as far as the science and different approaches, and trying out new recipes all the time. in addition to their efforts. I know many of them have so much energy because of their incredibly healthy diet that they lead hiking groups, and they clearly are winning medals, and they are achieving amazing things in their spare time. So very, very pleased and proud to introduce you guys to your mentors. And I think that's the end of my presentation.
Thanks so much, Dave. I'm wondering if before we break out, because you did fantastic and you're 5 minutes ahead of schedule, if you'd be able to answer, I was trying to comment in the chat box, someone asked about recommended dose of vitamin D.
Great question on vitamin D, thanks. I almost could have included vitamin D. I think there's pretty good evidence that vitamin D is the other supplement you want to take, and you want to take vitamin D3 on a daily basis, I think, because most of the research showing benefit from taking vitamin D3 is vitamin D is the D3 form, and the optimal dose depends on how aggressive you want to be. So if you believe the likes of Dr. Michael Greger, who keeps his pulse pretty firmly on the vitamin D research, you're looking at 5,000 to 10,000 international units a day. That's a pretty hefty dose. The guidelines have been a lot more conservative around vitamin D. I think Dr. Greger makes a really good argument in some of his videos, and hopefully we'll get a chance to touch on his website, nutritionfacts.org there. I just did it, but bottom line is the official guidelines are something like 1,200 international units for seniors and lower for people who are younger. I think it's generally thought to be very safe to take 5,000 international units a day. Most of us need more than just 1,000 to get our levels up. It appears that for optimal health, ideally our vitamin D levels up around 70, whereas the official cutoff for normal is above 30. And so 30 seems to be good enough to not get rickets, but not good enough to get the optimal bone strength and muscle strength that you get from vitamin D when you have the adequate levels of 70 vitamin D level. So there's a hazy answer. I don't have a firm value, but I do think it's a good idea to take vitamin D3.
Thanks. And one other question, someone asked about ordering blood work if a physician has to do it. I believe so.
For the most part, they still do, sadly. For whatever reason, we live in this paternalistic system where you can't order your own blood work. But usually it's not a hard lift. If you call your doctor at our practice and tell them you're participating in this, you'd like a lab slip mailed to you, they can turn that around in less than a day.
And I'm typing in the chat now, someone asked about having vitamin D blood level checked. Yes, that's possible. You might want to check with your insurance company. I was just on a call before this, and one person had a bill for like $263 for a vitamin D level. So you might want to check in advance.
The test is called 25-hydroxy vitamin D. And when we see these $200 bills, that's the typical US healthcare system jacking up the price of things by a factor of like 5 to 10. Because if you get the same test through like Cleveland Heart Lab, it's like $20. So it shouldn't be that expensive, but depending on your level of insurance or
your blood will be handled by kings and queens only and run through a gold line centrifuge.
Exactly.
All right, well, I think now that's perfect timing. We are going to have our first breakout session. So you've all been assigned a mentor that you're going to meet with every week. And with the number of participants, it's great. There's only about 6 people in each room, so you'll get a lot of like time and attention. And the first breakout is for you to just get to know each other and to say a little bit about what you're hoping to get out of being a participant in the challenge, what you want to achieve in the next 4 weeks. And I'm going to set a timer so that we meet back. Once I hit like breakout rooms, you're going to see a little like accept the invitation in your screen. So you want to click on that to go into your breakout room. And then we are going to be in our separate rooms for 12 minutes. And you'll see a little timer when there's only 30 seconds left. You'll know. And then at the end, we'll just all meet back here again. So let me get that going. 12 minutes, 30 seconds. I'm going to open all the rooms now.